The Making of an Unstoppable Force, The Rise of Ambassador Kevin Clarke. Every generation produces a small handful of individuals who defy the gravity of their circumstances. People who move through the world with such precision, conviction, and inner authority that their ascent seems almost mythic. They do not simply adapt to pressure, they metabolize it. They do not wait for opportunity, they drag it into existence. They do not follow the arc of history, they bend it. Ambassador Kevin Clarke is one of those rare figures. His rise was not born from privilege, nor from perfect conditions, nor from the illusion of overnight success. It was forged in the unseen hours, the nights when everyone else slept, the mornings when he acted before doubt could speak, the seasons when life demanded more than most men could endure. He was sculpted in silence, under pressure, inside the crucible where identity is stripped down and rebuilt, piece by uncompromising piece. To understand Kevin Clarke is to understand the modern architecture of personal power. Focus, discipline, self-honesty, tactical patience, strategic ruthlessness, and an unshakable internal certainty that becomes magnetic to the world around you. People see the diplomat, the powerful voice, the visionary leader, the man who commands rooms with a presence that needs no introduction. But they rarely see the evolution, the internal war he had to win long before the world knew his name. This book is not merely a story about mastery. It is a manual for becoming someone the world cannot ignore. It is a study of the ancient forces that create legends. It is a translation of struggle into strategy, fear into fuel, doubt into dominance. It is a roadmap for the individual willing to step beyond mediocrity and into inevitability. You are not here to be inspired. You are here to be transformed, to dismantle the excuses that have kept you average, to unlearn the timidity that has kept you hidden, to confront the patterns that have cost you years, to rise into the identity you have postponed for far too long. Every chapter in this book, every law, every principle, every story is designed with one purpose: to weaponize your potential, to sharpen your mind, to harden your spirit, to elevate your standard, to create in you the same unbreakable constitution that built Ambassador Kevin Clarke into a modern force of nature. This is not motivation. This is metamorphosis. By the final chapter, you will not merely understand power. You will embody it. Because the truth is simple. The world does not reward the talented. It rewards the inevitable. And by the time you finish this book, that is exactly what you will become. Chapter 1: The Law of Relentless Focus. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned early that distraction is the enemy of achievement. Growing up in a modest home, every day demanded attention, discipline, and creativity. From the moment he could walk, he observed the dynamics of survival and strategy, not through textbooks, but through life itself. One of his earliest lessons came from a seemingly small event. Kevin bought a used sewing machine for around $50 and spent days getting used to using it. While $50 might seem trivial to some, the experience was monumental. He wasn't just learning about a machine that would be a catalyst into the textiles trade. He was learning focus. He had zero tolerance for distractions that would derail the project. Every tool, every bit of knowledge, Every hour of sweat was measured against a singular goal: to master the machine and maximize value. From that moment, Kevin developed a principle that would guide every major decision in his life. Focus relentlessly on the activity that creates the most value. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but it is deceptively difficult. Most people scatter their energy across dozens of tasks, each contributing marginally to their goals, leaving them exhausted and underwhelmed. Tevin's insight, developed over decades of trial, error, and reflection, was that productivity and impact are not functions of effort. They're functions of precision and concentration. Take, for example, the analogy of a river. Water that is scattered across thousands of tiny streams accomplishes little, but channel that same water into a single, focused river, and it can carve canyons, irrigate fields, and power cities. This is the essence of focus. Every major breakthrough, every strategic victory, every creation of wealth requires this principle. Kevin's early education and focus came not just from work, but from observation of human behavior. He noticed that most people are ruled by external pressures rather than internal priorities. They react to notifications, interruptions, gossip, and social obligations without discrimination. The result is a life fragmented into hundreds of small, inconsequential decisions. To counter this, Kevin discovered a method known as the 80-20 focus rule. Identify the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your results and devote almost all of your energy to them. In practice, this meant ruthless prioritization. When Kevin ran his first small business repairing and making clothes, he did not spend time marketing in dozens of channels. He focused exclusively on the two strategies that consistently brought revenue: word of mouth from satisfied clients and direct negotiation with sellers of fabric. Every other potential marketing avenue was ignored until those two streams were perfected. The result: efficiency, profit, and mastery. But focus alone is not enough. Kevin discovered that focus without spiritual alignment is hollow. Many ambitious individuals chase wealth, recognition, or power while neglecting the internal compass that gives meaning to action. Kevin's framework integrates productivity with purpose, ensuring that relentless focus does not lead to burnout, moral compromise, or emptiness. A key turning point occurred during his early years as an entrepreneur. Kevin had the opportunity to attend a high-level business meeting led by a renowned speaker named Luke. The seminar promised knowledge, networking, and investment opportunities. During lunch, Luke offered to pay for Kevin's meal. Most would accept, but Kevin hesitated. Something in him resisted appearing as a taker, as someone who benefits without earning. He insisted on paying his own way. This seemingly small act sent a signal. Kevin was disciplined, principled, and self-reliant. That signal opened doors far beyond lunch. In the months that followed, Luke invested time and mentorship into Kevin, amplifying his trajectory in ways money could not purchase. From this experience, Kevin extracted a subtle but critical insight. Focus is not just about work, it is also about values, principles, and behavior. Every choice, no matter how small, either compounds opportunity or dissipates it. Relentless focus is not a matter of intensity alone. It is alignment of action with long-term vision and ethical integrity. By the time Kevin became Ambassador Kevin Clarke, he had internalized focus as a principle that transcended personal ambition. Whether negotiating international agreements, mentoring young entrepreneurs, or strategizing large-scale initiatives. He approached every task with the same disciplined attention he applied to his first sewing machine. Actionable principles from Chapter 1. Identify the 20% of activities that generate 80% of your results. Focus relentlessly on those. Eliminate distractions ruthlessly. Protect your time as you would protect your life. Integrate focus with purpose. Chapter 2. The Law of Time Mastery. Ambassador Kevin Clarke quickly realized that time is the ultimate currency, far more valuable than money, talent, or even opportunity. Growing up in a crowded household where resources were scarce, every moment was precious. From a young age, he watched his mother stretch each hour to provide for the household, learning firsthand that wasted time compounds into missed opportunities. Kevin often reflects on one particular summer during his teenage years. Kevin could have spent his time socializing, relaxing, or doing trivial tasks, but he approached each day with precision. Every hour was scheduled. Morning learning clothes alterations, afternoon sourcing of fabrics, evenings spent learning about the textiles trade. By the end of the summer, Kevin had turned $50 into over $1,000, an extraordinary sum for a teenager in the 1990s. But more importantly, he had learned the power of deliberate time allocation. Kevin often emphasizes that people misunderstand the relationship between money and time. He has repeatedly encountered the myth that increasing income will necessarily lead to distraction, greed, or spiritual compromise. Some critics accused him of chasing wealth at the expense of faith. Kevin challenges this idea, stating, "I'm less focused on money than most people. I'm focused on time. Time is the lever that amplifies everything else." This perspective leads to a crucial insight. The wealthy value time over money, while the poor often value money over time. Kevin illustrates this with a striking example. A group of churchgoers dining at a restaurant for 5 hours on a Sunday, only to leave a tiny tip. Their money is limited, but so is their understanding of time's true cost. In contrast, someone who values time treats every hour as an investment, spending it where it produces maximum return, whether in relationships, learning, or business. Kevin's personal experience reinforces this principle. Early in his career, he worked 13-hour days on clothes alterations and designing, all while managing school and family obligations. He could have been distracted by trivial temptations, procrastination, or short-term gratification, but he treated every hour as sacred as possible. Over time, this approach compounded into extraordinary results, allowing him to purchase his first industrial sewing machine. Every minute spent learning negotiation, sales became a building block for long-term wealth and influence. Another lesson in time mastery comes from Kevin's interaction with Luke, a mentor and successful entrepreneur. When Kevin first attended Luke's business meeting, he noticed that Luke meticulously tracked his schedule, prioritizing high-value activities while eliminating low-impact tasks. Luke would often remind him, "You can earn back money, but you cannot earn back time." That lesson transformed Kevin's mindset. He began treating time as a strategic asset, investing it deliberately in relationships, education, and high-leverage opportunities. Kevin also teaches a powerful framework for maximizing time, the time conversion principle. This principle emphasizes turning every action into a return on investment, monetary, intellectual, or relational. For example, fashion and design is not just labor. It's an investment in future cash flow and equity. Attending a business meeting is not just learning. It's networking, influence building, and opportunity creation. Kevin gained great business skills thanks to network marketing models such as ACN, Amway, and Utility Warehouse. Even paying for a high-quality tool or resource is not an expense. It is an investment that saves time, increases efficiency, and multiplies results. Such investments are considered an asset and not a liability. He applies this principle rigorously. Kevin once spent thousands in his textiles business. Instead of viewing it as an expense, he turned the investment into a profit center by creating a textiles room and launching his clothing label. Within a year, the label had the potential to cover his expenses entirely, a perfect illustration of how time and strategic investment converge. Actionable principles from Chapter 2. Value time over money. Make every hour a strategic decision. Schedule ruthlessly. Use calendars, to-do lists, and accountability to eliminate wasted time. Convert expenses into profit centers. Ask, how can this activity, purchase, or investment create a return? Prioritize high-leverage activities. Focus on the 20% of tasks that yield 80% of results. Measure your time ROI. Track how every hour spent contributes to long-term objectives. By mastering time, Kevin Clarke unlocked the ability to scale effort, influence, and wealth exponentially. Without control of time, focus alone is limited. With control of time, focus becomes unstoppable. As Kevin often says, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is not talent, resources, or luck. It's what you do with every hour you're given. Chapter 3. The Law of Strategic Boldness. Ambassador Kevin Clarke often reflects on the moment he realized that boldness, not mere effort or intelligence, is the key differentiator between those who succeed spectacularly and those who remain average. Boldness is not recklessness. It is strategic, calculated courage. It is the willingness to act decisively while understanding the consequences, and it is the quality that separates leaders from followers. Kevin's first taste of bold action came when he was just a teenager in Radford, Nottingham, UK. Understanding of risk versus reward. Kevin recounts mentor Luke during a business meeting. Luke made a simple but profound observation. You either take a seat at the table or you watch the table get taken over without you. Kevin initially misunderstood, fearing that he could fail or embarrass himself, but Luke insisted, bold action attracts bold opportunities. That lesson transformed Kevin's approach to business, relationships, and personal growth. The myth of recklessness. Many people confuse boldness with impulsivity. Kevin emphasizes that strategic boldness is far different from reckless action. Recklessness ignores risk, planning, and consequences. Boldness, in contrast, is informed courage. It involves assessing the opportunity, determine whether the potential reward justifies the risk, planning the action, know your steps, prepare for contingencies, and have a fallback strategy, and executing decisively. Once a course of action is chosen, act with confidence and commitment. Kevin illustrates this principle with a story from his clothing label ventures. Early in his clothing business investments, he discovered a batch of fabric for sale. The auction was crowded, and the lot price started at $200. Other bidders pushed prices higher, but Kevin remained calm, strategically observing the pattern of bids. He waited patiently, never revealing his hand, and ultimately purchased the batch for the original $200. Bold patience, knowing when to act and when to hold back, is a hallmark of strategic boldness. Boldness scales results exponentially. Kevin explains that bold action does not simply produce linear outcomes, it produces exponential results. For example, taking a risk to invest in a high-value property, start a business, or approach a mentor with a bold proposal can create ripple effects that multiply success far beyond the initial action. He shares a personal anecdote about attending his first meeting where Luke sold $3,500 in services to a small audience, while Kevin, hosting his first event, sold only $350. Observing Luke's bold approach, Kevin realized that the difference was not skill or knowledge, it was audacious action. He also connects boldness to the principle of ownership of opportunity. Those who hesitate risk watching others claim the rewards. Those who act decisively with strategy secure not just the immediate opportunity, but the future advantages that follow. Kevin emphasizes that boldness must be paired with humility and learning. He recounts turning down offers that would have made him wealthy in the short term, but would have compromised his long-term objectives. Strategic boldness is not simply doing more. It is doing the right things boldly, even when others doubt you. Actionable principles from Chapter 3. 1. Take calculated risks. Assess the reward, understand the risk, and act decisively. 2. Practice bold patience. Sometimes waiting for the right moment to act is the boldest strategy of all. 3. Treat every action as a multiplier. Bold actions compound over time, producing results far beyond the immediate effect. 4. Reject fear as a limiting factor. Fear signals growth. Boldness converts it into opportunity. 5. Pair boldness with learning. Audacious action without insight leads to mistakes. Audacious action with insight creates legacy. Kevin Clarke's Law of Strategic Boldness demonstrates that success favors those willing to act decisively in alignment with vision and purpose. Chapter 4. The Law of Leveraged Influence. Ambassador Kevin Clarke often says that your network is not just your net worth, it is your lever to exponential success. Influence is not about manipulation or coercion. It is about strategic relationships, value exchange, and multiplying your efforts through others. This principle separates self-made millionaires from the rest. They leverage relationships to amplify results far beyond what any individual effort could accomplish. Kevin's understanding of influence began early in his career. As a young entrepreneur, he noticed that the same skills applied in business applied in relationships. People wanted to connect with those who offered value, vision, and integrity. He recounts a story from his first speaking event, where a mentor, Luke, taught him an invaluable lesson. Luke's offer to buy Kevin lunch was not a simple act of kindness. It was a test. Luke wanted to see if Kevin would receive guidance with humility or take the free gift without commitment. Kevin's decision to pay for his own lunch demonstrated character and value alignment, which solidified a long-term mentorship that would later multiply his career opportunities. Influence is a force multiplier. Kevin explains that influence works like a lever. The right relationships allow a small input to create a massive output. For example, a single introduction from a trusted mentor can lead to deals worth fortunes. Sharing knowledge with one well-positioned individual can unlock an entire network of collaborators. Collaborating with high-performing teams amplifies results far beyond individual efforts. He shares a personal anecdote from his fashion and design career. While acquiring his first few contracts, Kevin realized he could either handle everything himself, sales, marketing, and management, or he could build a trusted team and delegate strategically. By leveraging the skills and influence of others, he completed projects faster, avoided costly mistakes, and exponentially increased his wealth. Kevin emphasizes that influence is earned, not demanded. It is grounded in integrity. People follow those who act consistently with their word. Value creation. Influence is given to those who provide meaningful solutions or insight. Visibility. The more people see your competence and character, the more influence you accrue. Reciprocity. Mutual benefit strengthens long-term leverage. Leveraging influence for exponential impact. Kevin introduces a framework he calls the influence multiplier. Identify key individuals whose reach aligns with your goals. Invest in their success first, providing mentorship, collaboration, or resources. Communicate clearly and strategically. Articulate your vision and how collaboration amplifies results for all parties. Follow through consistently to solidify trust and credibility. He illustrates this principle with a story about scaling his businesses. Early on, he partnered with local leaders in the textiles trade and investors. By helping each party achieve their goals first, Kevin positioned himself as a connector and problem solver, which allowed him to access deals and resources that would have been impossible to secure alone. The result? His influence multiplied the velocity of his wealth creation, turning hundreds of small efforts into large, compounding results. Avoiding influence traps. Kevin warns against two common pitfalls: transactional influence, seeking relationships only for immediate gain without giving value. This produces short-term results but erodes credibility. Passive influence, waiting for others to recognize your potential instead of proactively engaging and demonstrating value. He shares a cautionary tale from an early mentorship opportunity. A fellow entrepreneur had vast potential but failed to nurture his network. When a major deal arose, he was bypassed because he had not invested in relationships strategically. Kevin contrasts his approach. He consistently invests in building value-based influence, ensuring that opportunities gravitate toward him rather than away. Actionable principles from Chapter 4. Map your influence network. Identify who can amplify your efforts and who needs your value to grow. Invest first, receive later. Strategic generosity creates long-term leverage. Be visible and consistent. Your influence grows proportional to the trust and credibility you maintain. Multiply efforts through collaboration. Leverage skills, knowledge, and networks to scale impact. Guard against transactional relationships. Focus on strategic, value-driven partnerships rather than short-term gains. Kevin Clarke's Law of Leveraged Influence teaches that you do not have to do everything alone. By strategically investing in relationships, mentoring others, and providing consistent value, you create a network that multiplies results, mitigates risk, and accelerates wealth and impact. Influence is the ultimate force multiplier, the secret behind the success of high achievers in business, sports, politics, and life. Chapter 5. The Law of Resource Optimization. How to multiply what you have until it becomes more than enough. Ambassador Kevin Clarke often says that poverty is not the absence of resources, it is the absence of resourcefulness. This chapter explores the law that shaped his rise from scarcity to abundance, the law of making the absolute most of what you have until it becomes more than you need. He learned this not from books, seminars, or mentors, but from a childhood where every dollar mattered, every tool had multiple purposes, and wasted potential was unthinkable. It was in those early years that Kevin met the person who would define his mindset about resourcefulness for the rest of his life, Mr. Make-Do. The origin of Mr. Make-Do. Growing up in a busy house in a neighborhood prized with challenges, nothing came easy. When items broke, you didn't buy a new one, you fixed it. When dinner ran short, you stretched it. Kevin's mother, a hard-working woman, would say 3 words anytime they faced a challenge. Do it. Whenever a task is set for you, don't idly sit and view it, nor be content to wish it done. Begin at once and do it. This mentality, born of necessity, would one day become Kevin's entrepreneurial superpower. The roll of fabric that became a business. Kevin's first taste of money didn't come from a polished corporate strategy. It came from what most people would have seen as junk. He bought a roll of fabric. It was far from glamorous, but it had potential. And by the end of the summer, he made outfits and made a profit. An early lesson in value creation, resource flipping, and the hidden profitability of the overlooked. What began as a one-off turned into a business. Buy old fabric, make outfits, sell them, repeat. Most people would have dismissed those rolls of fabric as trash. Kevin saw possibility. While others looked at what was, Kevin looked at what could be. This is resource optimization in its purest form, transforming low-value assets into high-value outcomes through ingenuity, effort, and vision. The $50 sewing machine that built a millionaire mindset. The most striking example of Kevin's resourcefulness came when he bought his first sewing machine for $50. He understood that opportunity often walks in dressed like inconvenience. He checked the item, inquired, subtly, strategically, and purchased the sewing machine for less than the cost of a pair of sneakers. Years of sweat equity followed. Some months he lived in chaos, but that sewing machine became the foundation for a clothing portfolio that eventually grew into a fortune. What others rejected, he reclaimed. What others feared, he mastered. What others ignored, he optimized. Why this law matters. Most people believe they need more money, more time, more knowledge, more support, more confidence to get started. In reality, they need none of that. They need only what Kevin had in his early years, the willingness to maximize the little they have until it becomes more than enough. The world seduces people with fantasies of abundance, but abundance is not what creates success. Resourcefulness does. Success does not come from waiting for perfect conditions. It comes from advancing in imperfect conditions. The psychology behind resource optimization. Robert Greene teaches that power grows when you refuse to be limited by your circumstances. Kevin embodies this philosophy. Constraints sharpen innovation. When you have little, you create more. Scarcity builds discipline. Waste becomes impossible. Focus becomes instinctive. Limited resources eliminate excuses. When you have few tools, you use each one better. Ingenuity becomes identity. You stop looking at obstacles as blockages and start viewing them as puzzles. The poor mindset says, I can't do anything until I have more. The resource optimized mindset says, I will use what I have until I am unstoppable. The law applied. Practical rules. Rule number 1. Turn every asset into a multiplier. Ask, how can this tool, skill, or resource create more value? Rule number 2. Skill up through necessity. Learn the things your situation demands, not the things your comfort zone prefers. Rule number 3. Don't buy new, transform old. Value is created in the transformation, not the purchase. Rule number 4. Sweat creates capital. Labor, creativity, and consistency are currencies. Rule number 5. Ask the most important question Kevin ever learned. How can I turn this expense into a profit center? This question alone has made millionaires. It is a doorway into relentless resourcefulness. The millionaire lesson. People often believe Kevin became wealthy because he eventually had money, but the truth is the opposite. He became wealthy before he had money because he mastered resource optimization when he had nothing. This chapter's law reveals a truth hidden from the masses. Wealth is not built by those who start with the most. Wealth is built by those who waste the least. And those who waste the least eventually own the most. Chapter 6. The Law of Strategic Constraint. How limiting yourself creates power others can't compete with. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned early in life that freedom is not created by having unlimited options, it is created by choosing the right limitations. Most people try to expand their circumstances by adding more tools, more time, more goals, more directions. Kevin discovered the opposite truth. Power grows when you remove distractions, narrow your focus, and strategically limit your field of action. This is the law of strategic constraint, the discipline of deciding what not to do so that everything you choose to do becomes unstoppable. The scarcity that taught discipline. Growing up in a house with 9 siblings, Kevin didn't have the luxury of unlimited choice. Space was limited, time was limited, money was limited, even attention was limited. But what that environment lacked in resources, it compensated for in a priceless gift: constraints that sharpened his focus and forged his ability to thrive under pressure. If he wanted to study, he had to concentrate amid chaos. If he wanted to make money, he had to carve out opportunity in between school, chores, and helping manage the household. If he wanted something done, he learned to prioritize ruthlessly because there simply wasn't time for everything. People who grow up with abundance often develop undisciplined minds. People who grow up with constraints develop weapons-grade concentration. Kevin was the latter. The lesson of the tailoring business. Kevin ran a tailoring business. He sourced for underpriced fabric, then turned the fabric into items of clothes and resold them for profit. But the real business lesson wasn't about buying and selling. It was about choosing the right constraints. Kevin noticed something. When he bought everything, profits fell. When he bought only the best deals, profits soared. When he tried to sell every item, the business became chaotic. When he focused on high-margin items, the business became simple and strong. This taught him one of the most powerful principles of his life. Focus is not created by ambition, it is created by saying no. Limiting what he bought and sold created more profit than expanding. This lesson would shape every venture that followed. Time, the ultimate constraint. In his teenage years, Kevin juggled school, work, helping run the household, small business hustles, community involvement. Most people collapse under that load. Kevin thrived because he learned to impose artificial constraints on his own time. He learned the power of tight windows, of boxing his day into laser-focused segments instead of letting time bleed into time. Scarcity of time taught him to move fast, to work efficiently, to eliminate waste, to ignore distractions, to operate with purpose. People with unlimited time procrastinate. People with limited time produce. The psychology behind the law. Kevin understands that constraints force creativity and drive mastery. Kevin's life exemplifies this principle. 1. Constraint concentrates power. The sun warms the earth. A laser cuts through steel. The difference? Focus. When you limit your direction, your energy consolidates. When your energy consolidates, power emerges. 2. Constraint eliminates mental noise. Most people suffer from decision fatigue because they refuse to set boundaries. Kevin set boundaries early and kept them sacred. He didn't need multiple options. He needed one path and absolute commitment to it. 3. Constraint builds reliability. When you show up consistently in a narrow domain, people trust you. Trust creates opportunities that talent alone could never unlock. 4. Constraint makes mastery inevitable. Mastery requires repetition. Repetition requires limitation. Limitation creates depth. People who dabble in everything master nothing. People who constrain their world rise to levels others cannot imagine. The turning point: fashion, design, and ruthless focus. When Kevin began investing in fabric, he didn't scatter his efforts across dozens of strategies. He focused on one: rolls of fabric with maximum upside potential. He mastered wholesale, retail, undervalued markets, neglected fabric, sweat equity transformations. He imposed constraints. Only buy what you can improve. Only invest in what you understand. Only acquire assets with multiple exit strategies. Only grow as fast as your discipline allows. These constraints prevented financial chaos and created predictable wealth. While others chased shiny fashion trends, Kevin stayed in his lane, and that lane led to a tidy clothing portfolio. The power of artificial limits. As Kevin matured into entrepreneurship, leadership, and diplomacy, he began using self-imposed limits as strategic tools, limiting meetings to maintain long-term focus, limiting partnerships to maintain quality, limiting public engagements to maintain authority, limiting new projects to preserve momentum. Every limit increased his power. Every boundary sharpened his presence. Every constraint expanded his influence. People mistakenly believe limits make them smaller. The truth is the opposite. A mind with boundaries becomes a force. A mind without boundaries becomes a burden. The law applied. Practical rules. Rule number 1. Choose your limits. If you don't impose limits, the world will impose them for you, and far more brutally. Rule number 2. Focus on fewer goals with greater intensity. Your life changes faster when you concentrate force. Rule number 3. Cut away distractions without hesitation. Your environment must reflect your ambitions. Rule number 4. Reduce options to increase commitment. Success requires fewer decisions, not more. Rule number 5. Constrain your identity. Don't try to be everything. Be one thing so distinctly that no one forgets it. The millionaire lesson. Kevin's rise was not powered by endless opportunity. It was powered by strategic limitation. He understood what most people never realize. Success is not built by expanding your life. Success is built by tightening your life until excellence is your only possible outcome. To the undisciplined, constraints feel confining. To the powerful, constraints feel liberating. Because discipline is a doorway. Boundaries are a catalyst. Limits are leverage. And once you master the law of strategic constraint, the world no longer overwhelms you. Chapter 7. The Law of Relentless Adaptation. The power to shift, evolve, and outlast every obstacle. If the law of strategic constraint is the discipline of focusing your power, the law of relentless adaptation is a discipline of ensuring that power never becomes brittle. Rigid power is fragile. Flexible power is invincible. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned this law not in a calm season of life, but in the middle of chaos, when every assumption he held was challenged and every strategy he relied on suddenly failed. This chapter explores how he developed the ability not just to survive change, but to master it, using it as fuel for expansion rather than a threat to stability. The day everything shifted. Kevin was gaining momentum in his early fashion and design career as a tailor. Deals were flowing, opportunities were multiplying, and confidence was growing. But progress in life is rarely linear. It comes in waves, some building you up, some attempting to wash you away. A sudden shift in the textiles market caught Kevin off guard. A combination of new changes and tightened policies sent ripple effects through the sector. Deals that were profitable a week ago became liabilities overnight. The old strategy, the one Kevin had refined and disciplined himself into using, was suddenly ineffective. Most people panic when this happens. They cling to what used to work. They refuse to adapt because adaptation requires effort, humility, and risk. Kevin did the opposite. He leaned into change like a surfer leans into a wave, not resisting it, but riding it with precision. Adaptation begins with detachment. The first thing Kevin understood, instinctively, was that the strategy he was using was not who he was. It was just a tool, and tools can be replaced. People fail to adapt because they become emotionally attached to their methods. They turn a tactic into an identity. They believe changing their approach means admitting defeat. Kevin viewed change differently, as intelligence, as evolution, as longevity. He stepped back from the chaos and asked a question few entrepreneurs ever ask. What is the market trying to teach me? This is the mindset of a strategist, not a survivor. The pivot that saved the empire. Instead of forcing old deals through a collapsing system, Kevin pivoted into a niche that most fashion designers avoided: matching accessories. The barriers were higher, the research was complicated, the process was intimidating, the competition was minimal. Perfect conditions for a strategist. Within months, Kevin had acquired new customers and repeat business from existing customers. The Kevin Clarke clothing brand started to expand. Kevin Clarke hats, Kevin Clarke scarves, Kevin Clarke bags, Kevin Clarke belts, Kevin Clarke jeans, Fine Tunes by Kevin Clarke perfumes. What crushed other businesses became the very wave Kevin used to rise. Adaptation isn't just about surviving change. It's about positioning yourself where others fear to stand. The psychology of adaptation. Most people resist change because it triggers a primal fear, the fear of losing control. But adaptation is not surrender. Adaptation is the highest expression of control. Here are the psychological keys Kevin mastered. 1. Let go of identity attachments. You are not your job. You are not your method. You are not your current plan. Identity flexibility allows strategic flexibility. 2. Never rely on a single skill set. Diversity of skill equals resilience of income. Kevin's ability to shift from conventional fashion and design to bespoke range came from years of learning, experimenting, and sharpening multiple approaches. 3. Accept reality faster than others. Denial is the most expensive emotion in business. Kevin didn't waste time hoping the market would go back to normal. He accepted the new reality before others did and monetized it. 4. View change as an invitation, not a threat. When something breaks, it creates openings no one else can see. Every disruption hides a doorway for the adaptable mind. The silent advantage, observational speed. Kevin developed a kind of sixth sense, the ability to sense shifts before they fully appeared. This wasn't magic, it was awareness. While others were glued to the immediate moment, Kevin watched. Trends, demographic shifts, policy changes, community movement, pricing anomalies, buyer psychology. Relentless adaptation begins with relentless observation. Most people don't adapt because they don't notice the signals until it's too late. Kevin trained his mind to stay slightly ahead, not through prediction, but through attentiveness. The adaptability of a diplomat. As Kevin's career progressed and he moved into global leadership and diplomatic roles, adaptation became even more crucial. In international environments, agendas shift, alliances evolve, cultural norms vary, political winds change overnight. Communication requires nuance. Outcomes depend on flexibility. Where rigid thinkers fail, adaptable leaders thrive. Kevin's ability to adjust his communication, strategy, tone, and timing made him effective in rooms where power dynamics were constantly in motion. Rigid leaders dominate small spaces. Adaptive leaders influence the world. Historical example: the samurai who survived by bending. In 1603, when the samurai class realized their era of constant war was ending, most resisted change. They clung to the old identity: warriors, fighters, defenders. But a smaller group evolved. They became scholars, traders, administrators, educators. These samurai embraced flexibility and went on to shape Japanese society for centuries. The rigid samurai vanished. The adaptable samurai became immortal. Kevin embodies this principle. Evolution creates empires. The 4 laws of relentless adaptation. Law 1. Adapt early. The earlier you shift, the easier the shift becomes. Law 2. Adapt fully. Half adaptation is disguised resistance. Commit completely or not at all. Law 3. Adapt continuously. Do not wait for crisis. Adapt while things are still working. Law 4. Adapt intelligently. Don't adapt to escape discomfort. Adapt to gain advantage. Practical exercises. Becoming an adaptive force. Exercise 1. The weekly reset. Each week, analyze what has changed in your industry, your personal habits, your financial environment, your opportunities. Then identify one adjustment to make. Exercise 2. The skill expansion protocol. Choose one new skill each quarter that enhances your adaptability. Negotiation, market analysis, communication, investing, leadership, technology. Quarterly growth ensures yearly transformation. Exercise 3. The identity audit. Write down all the labels you cling to. Then ask, which of these limit my evolution? Release the ones that no longer fit. The millionaire lesson. Kevin's success was not built on stubbornness. It was built on flexibility. He mastered the ability to shift when necessary, pivot when logical, and evolve when required, without fear, without hesitation, and without self-doubt. Most people lose because they cling. Winners rise because they adapt. Adaptation is the art of staying ahead of life, rather than reacting to it. Rigid minds break. Flexible minds conquer. Adaptive minds dominate history. Chapter 8. The Law of Tactical Patience. How masters let time work for them while amateurs try to force it. There is a moment in every transformation where impatience becomes the enemy. Not because eagerness is wrong, but because eagerness, when left unchecked, blinds the mind, accelerates mistakes, and forces outcomes that were never meant to be forced. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned this not through failure, but through witnessing failure. Specifically, through watching others rush through doors that were never yet ready to open. Tactical patience is not passive. It is not waiting for life to hand you something. It is deliberate restraint. It is the art of moving with timing, the willingness to hold position while the world misreads your stillness as weakness. It is the psychological discipline to let opportunities ripen while you quietly sharpen your blade. And if you study anyone who has shaped history, political leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, spiritual figures, you find the same truth. Success follows those who understand when to act, not simply how to act. Kevin Clarke's first diplomatic lesson: the power of deliberate delay. When Kevin Clarke began transitioning from entrepreneurship into government and international relations, he encountered a mentor, an older diplomat with a gentle smile and razor-sharp insight. One day, Kevin asked him, "Why do negotiations take so long? We could solve half these issues in an afternoon." The diplomat smiled. He leaned back and answered with a question instead of an explanation. "Kevin, what grows faster, an oak tree or a weed?" A weed can sprout overnight. An oak tree requires patience, seasons, storms, and sun before it becomes strong enough to shelter generations. Then the diplomat added, "The results that last the longest always take the longest to build." That statement became one of the foundational lessons in Kevin Clarke's leadership. Most people rush. They want quick decisions, quick agreements, quick approval, quick results. They want weeds that spring up fast rather than oaks that last. Kevin began paying attention. He noticed that the most powerful negotiators rarely spoke first. The most influential leaders rarely answered immediately. They let silence, time, and pressure do the heavy lifting. This wasn't procrastination, it was tactical patience. The 3 layers of tactical patience. Every effective leader learns to operate on 3 levels of patience simultaneously. 1. Emotional patience. The ability to stay composed while others panic. This is the highest form of psychological leverage. When emotions spike, logic collapses. When logic collapses, people surrender position. Kevin watched entire rooms yield power simply because someone rushed to fix discomfort rather than endure tension. He mastered the art of holding still, allowing his calmness to unsettle the impatient. 2. Strategic patience. This is the discipline of waiting for alignment, timing, resources, people, and opportunity. A bad plan executed at the right time often beats a brilliant plan executed too early. In business, most people launch before they're ready. In diplomacy, most nations negotiate before they're prepared. Kevin learned that the real masters prepare until the outcome becomes almost inevitable. 3. Positional patience. This is the subtle power of maintaining the high ground while others scramble. A lion does not chase everything it sees. It waits for the one target that guarantees a successful kill. Kevin once observed that the most influential decision makers often refuse meetings, delayed responses, or slowed processes, not to stall, but to force the other side into a psychological vulnerability. When you wait strategically, others reveal themselves. Why most people fail at patience? Because patience feels like doing nothing. And most people fear stillness. Most individuals associate action with progress. They don't understand that sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. Impatience leads to overcommitting, undervaluing oneself, accepting poor deals, making emotional decisions, burning out, missing the subtleties that create advantage. Kevin Clarke witnessed ambitious people sabotage themselves simply because they could not withstand temporary discomfort. They needed movement, even if it was in the wrong direction. This is where tactical patience separates amateurs from masters. Case study: the $1 million delay. During Kevin's rise as a global speaker and strategist, he encountered a well-known entrepreneur who was rushing to scale his business. He wanted speed, he wanted dominance, he wanted results now. Kevin asked him a simple question: if you could double your revenue in 90 days, would you be willing to wait 120 days to make it permanent? He said no without hesitation. He chose speed over stability, growth over structure, momentum over mastery. Kevin stepped aside. 6 months later, the entrepreneur's company collapsed under its own weight. Had he waited, had he allowed systems, people, and processes to mature, he would have built something enduring. Instead, he built a weed, not an oak. The 2 phases of tactical patience. Phase 1, accumulation. In this stage, you gather knowledge, connections, insights, and leverage. This is the invisible work, activity without applause. Kevin spent years in this phase before stepping into diplomatic leadership. He learned quietly, observed everything, and made strategic relationships long before he ever leveraged them. This phase feels slow, but it builds the foundation. Phase 2, execution. This is the moment you strike, not randomly, not emotionally, but with precision. The masters move rarely, but decisively. Their actions hit harder because they are taken from a position of clarity and strength. When Kevin negotiates, makes decisions, or takes on new ventures, observers often mistake his timing as coincidental or intuitive. It is neither. It is the result of calculated restraint. How to practice tactical patience in business and life. 1. Never rush to feel silence. Silence is pressure. Let others break. Delay commitment until the facts are clear. The impatient commit early. The wise commit accurately. 3. Avoid emotional decisions. Emotions belong in reflection, not strategy. 4. Invest in the long game. If your vision does not extend 5 to 10 years, you're building something disposable. 5. Move when the advantage is obvious. Not before, not after. 6. Protect your energy as a resource. Patience prevents burnout. Rushing accelerates it. 7. Train yourself to observe before acting. Observation multiplies options. Action without observation multiplies mistakes. Ambassador Clarke's closing insight. The person who can wait without losing enthusiasm will always outperform the person who must act to feel alive. Kevin learned that in every arena, leadership, wealth, influence, diplomacy, the greatest victories belong to those who move with intention, not impulse. To master tactical patience is to master leverage. And to master leverage is to shape outcomes instead of reacting to them. This is how leaders rise. This is how legacies are built. This is how ordinary individuals ascend into extraordinary influence.
Chapter 9, The Law of Strategic Generosity, Give to Gain, How Value Creates Power. There is a generosity that weakens, and there is a generosity that strengthens. One empties your pockets. The other expands your world. Most people misunderstand giving. They treat it as sacrifice, loss, or the relinquishing of advantage. They believe that to give is to diminish themselves. But in reality, strategically applied generosity is one of the most powerful forms of leverage in existence. It disarms resistance, opens doors normally sealed shut, and compels loyalty long before money or status enter the conversation. For Ambassador Kevin Clarke, this law was not a philosophical abstraction. It was forged from lived experience, taught to him not in books or seminars, but through the harsh economics of survival. Growing up in a crowded house where resources were stretched thin, generosity was not a luxury, it was a necessity. You shared because someone needed it. You gave because there was no other way for the family to survive. But Kevin would later learn that giving held a force beyond survival. It contained within it the seed of influence. If you have 2 slices of bread, you already have enough to share. It sounds like a lesson in kindness. Kevin realized it is a blueprint for power. The paradox of power, why the giver always leads. People instinctively follow those who provide value. Not those who demand it, not those who withhold it, not those who posture and position. Power flows to the source of solutions. This is why in every industry, the individuals who create opportunities, open networks, or distribute resources rise faster than the individuals who hoard them. In competitive environments, generosity becomes a weapon, subtle, invisible, and lethal in its effectiveness. Giving creates obligations. Giving creates memory. Giving creates presence. The person who gives becomes the person no one can ever forget. But this is not the soft generosity of sentimentality. This is a deliberate, calculated, and ethical deployment of value with long-term strategic returns. The first mentor test, when giving reveals character. The story of Kevin's early encounter with Luke, the mechanic who later became his mentor, is one of the clearest illustrations of this law. After Kevin's first event where he made nowhere near the amount Luke made, they met for lunch. And when the check arrived, Luke offered to pay. Kevin refused. He didn't know it at the time, but Luke had set a test of character, a test of principle, a test of value alignment. Had Kevin accepted the free meal, Luke later said, "I'd have known you were a taker, and takers can't be trusted with big opportunities." That single act of reciprocal generosity, insisting on buying lunch, opened the door to a mentorship that transformed Kevin's future and ultimately altered the trajectories of countless people who would later learn from him. Strategic generosity is not just about giving. It is about signaling who you are and who you refuse to be. The math of generosity. Why value begets value. The average person sees the cost of giving. The strategic person sees the compound return. Consider this. Every high-value deal, collaboration, and partnership in Kevin's career began with providing value first, often without immediate return. He gave insights long before he charged for consulting. He shared strategies with people who later became major clients. He opened doors without expecting anything upfront. When people encounter someone who gives before asking, they instinctively categorize that person as an asset, not a cost. Opportunities gravitate toward assets. This is why wealthy individuals tend to receive more opportunities than they can even accept. Their history of giving precedes them. The anatomy of strategic generosity. Strategic generosity operates on 4 levels. 1. Time generosity. Giving insight, mentorship, or presence. This builds reputation. 2. Resource generosity. Providing tools, help, or access. This builds alliances. 3. Skill generosity. Teaching what you know. This builds authority. 4. Experiential generosity. Creating moments that change someone's trajectory. This builds loyalty. Kevin's mentoring style often blends all four. When someone enters his orbit, they don't simply receive advice, they receive a perspective shift. He invests time, shares frameworks, opens doors, and believes in their potential long before they do. The double-edged sword. Why generosity must be guarded. However, strategic generosity is not blind generosity. Strategic generosity requires filters, boundaries, and discernment. The wrong person will take your value and disappear. The right person will take your value and multiply it. Kevin's experiences taught him that you must give like a river, but guard like a fortress. You must learn to recognize the taker who sees generosity as a shortcut, the entitled who sees it as obligation, the self-absorbed who sees it as weakness. Generosity without boundaries is exploitation. Generosity with strategy is empire building. The practical framework, turning generosity into power. To apply this law effectively, follow these principles. Rule 1. Give value before you ask for value. This flips the psychology of the relationship. Rule 2. Never give more than a person can appreciate or use. Overgiving diminishes perceived value. Rule 3. Give in proportion to commitment. Investment should deepen with relationship depth. Rule 4. Make your giving memorable. Let the experience brand you. Rule 5. Track the ROI not in money, but in momentum. Generosity's payoff is usually in opportunities, not cash. The wealth effect. Why generous people win. Look at any major figure in business, entertainment, spiritual leadership, or politics. They are surrounded by opportunities, alliances, and resources because they first chose to become a source. Kevin's entire rise as ambassador reflects this truth. From community empowerment to global influence, every leap was built on one foundation. Give, and power flows toward you. Give strategically, and nothing can stop you. Action principles. Identify the top 3 people in your life who deserve strategic generosity. Double down on them. Create a value asset you can give freely, a guide, a framework, or a method. Apply the mentor test to your own relationships. Who buys the lunch? Who invests first? Who shows loyalty? Audit your giving. Is it emotional or strategic? Is it draining or empowering? Is it reciprocated or exploited? Choose one area of your life where you will give more value than anyone expects. Watch what returns. The essence of the law. Strategic generosity is not an act of charity. It is an act of power. To give is to declare yourself abundant. To give is to command attention. To give is to step into a realm where others compete for your presence. This is how influence begins. This is how opportunity multiplies. This is how wealth flows. He who gives strategically becomes indispensable, and he who becomes indispensable becomes unstoppable.
Chapter 10. The Law of Relentless Execution. Ideas mean nothing. Movement means everything. There is a moment every dreamer faces when vision collides with reality, where thought meets resistance and intention meets the unforgiving demands of action. Most people never move past that threshold. They live in a world of concepts, plans, fantasies, agendas, and someday I will. They confuse thinking with doing.
They mistake the energy of excitement for the energy of execution. They drown themselves in preparation, delaying, tweaking, vision boarding, and dreaming, believing that one day conditions will be perfect. But conditions are never perfect, and dreams do not respect the passive. This is why most of the world remains spectators. Execution is the great separator, the force that divides the talkers from the builders, the dreamers from the founders, the hopeful from the historic. The one who executes owns the future. And Kevin Clarke learned this truth early, brutally, and without apology. The lesson: no one cares until you move. When Kevin lost money at his first event and walked away with less compared to Luke's handsome profits, he learned one of the most important insights of his life. The world does not reward intention, it rewards results. He had prepared, he had planned, he had visualized, he had wanted success. But Luke made money because he executed better, cleaner, sharper, more strategically, more deliberately. That moment woke Kevin up. It wasn't the money that bothered him. It was the realization that he had done the most common thing people do. He mistook activity for accomplishment. He had worked hard, but not smart. He had moved, but not with precision. He had executed, but without mastery. So he made a decision. Never again would he confuse motion with progress. From that day forward, every action would count. The silent force behind all success. People often credit intelligence, talent, charisma, or connections for success. But behind every monumental achievement lies one invisible and underestimated force: relentless follow-through. Show up when others oversleep. Do the work others postpone. Persist where others quit. Execute faster than doubt can catch up. Refine while others repeat the same mistakes. The world quietly bows to the person who follows through regardless of circumstance. Because follow-through is rare, painfully rare, and anything rare becomes priceless. The execution myth: why most people fail. People fail not because of lack of opportunity, but because of lack of execution. Here's the real reason. 1. They wait for motivation. Motivation is unstable. It evaporates. It is an emotional sugar rush. Professionals don't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. 2. They want conditions to be perfect. Perfect conditions are a mirage. They never arrive. 3. They overthink. Overthinking kills more dreams than failure ever will. Movement creates clarity, not thought. 4. They fear imperfection. They want flawless execution on day one. But perfection is the reward for action, not the prerequisite. 5. Their identity is tied to what they intend, not what they produce. This is the death of ambition. The Clarke method: execution as a lifestyle. Kevin's approach to action is brutally simple. Decide fast, move immediately, adjust relentlessly. He operates on a 3-phase cycle. Phase 1, commitment. A decision made, quickly, without emotional debate. Once chosen, it becomes immovable. Phase 2, execution.
daily, consistent, visible action. Habits over hype. Structure over struggle. Phase 3, correction. Review, refine, adapt. This alone separates amateurs from masters. Most people live only in phase 1. Some reach phase 2, but burn out. The elites dominate phase 3 and therefore dominate life. The power of speed. Why movement creates opportunity. Kevin learned early that opportunity does not come to the prepared, it comes to the mover. When he began speaking, he didn't wait to be discovered. He called venues. He knocked on doors. He showed up uninvited. He created events from nothing. He taught, spoke, shared, served anywhere he could. By the time others even submitted their proposals, Kevin already owned the room. Speed is a power most people never claim, not because they can't move fast, but because they live slow. Slow thinking, slow deciding, slow acting, slow correcting. Slowness kills momentum, and momentum is life. The universe bends for the person who moves with conviction. The art of imperfect action. Kevin teaches a principle that confuses perfectionists but liberates achievers. Imperfect action beats perfect intention. You don't succeed because your first move is flawless. You succeed because your first move exists. In the early days, Kevin's events weren't polished. His delivery wasn't refined. His marketing wasn't sophisticated. But he executed anyway. He moved anyway. And each action made him better. Execution creates momentum. Momentum creates mastery. Mastery creates inevitability. You cannot think your way to greatness. You must act your way into it. The pain of execution, a secret most won't admit. There is a truth few will say out loud. Execution is uncomfortable. It will stretch you, exhaust you, confront you with your weaknesses, expose your insecurities, pressure your limits. And this is precisely why so few people execute. It is not the difficulty of the task that stops them. It is the uncomfortableness of growth. Kevin embraced this discomfort. He made execution a habit, then a discipline, then a lifestyle, then a personality trait, then a brand, then a legacy. This is how a person becomes unstoppable. The execution framework. What to do next. If you want to apply this law, begin with these steps. 1. Create a daily non-negotiable list, 3 items max. Not goals, not wishes, actions. 2. Decide once. Don't rethink. Redeciding is self-sabotage disguised as caution. 3. Move within 60 seconds of deciding. Action kills doubt. 4. Track your consistency, not your perfection. Missing the system breaks the momentum. 5. Review weekly and refine ruthlessly. Not emotionally, strategically. Do this for 90 days and you will transform from a thinker into a force. The essence of the law. Execution is the oxygen of achievement. Those who execute command the landscape. Those who hesitate become invisible. Kevin's rise from ordinary beginnings to global influence was not the result of luck, privilege, or chance. It was built on one unbreakable principle. While others think, he moves. While others talk, he produces. While others fear, he steps forward. While others prepare, he dominates. The person who executes relentlessly becomes unstoppable.
Chapter 11. The Law of Unbreakable Self-Trust. If you doubt yourself, the world doubts you twice. There is a moment in every person's life when they look in the mirror and see not who they are, but who they fear they might become. The world calls this self-doubt, but the truth is far more ominous. It is self-abandonment, the quiet betrayal that halts destinies and chains entire lives to average outcomes. Every empire, every revolution, every innovation began not with resources or credentials, but with a single internal posture. I trust myself to move before the world believes I should. This is the posture Ambassador Kevin Clarke forged in the early years when nothing in his environment confirmed his potential, not money, not connections, not circumstances. The world around him said wait, but something within him whispered move. That whisper became a command. That command became a blueprint, and that blueprint became an empire. Self-trust is not a feeling. It is a discipline, a weapon, and a shield. And no one who has ever achieved greatness has done so without mastering it. The first break, a world that does not believe in you. Kevin remembers vividly the first time someone told him he wasn't the type to succeed. It came from someone older, established, a figure who was supposed to inspire, not diminish. You don't have the background for this. You don't have the experience. Be realistic. Most people crumble under these words. They internalize them. They let the doubts of others mutate into self-imposed limitations. But Kevin's reaction was different. He realized something profound. People don't doubt you because of who you are. They doubt you because of who they are. Their fear becomes their lens. Their failures become their prophecy. Their limitations become their advice. And if you are not careful, you will let someone else's small world shrink your entire universe before you ever get started. Kevin walked away from that conversation with a fire in his chest. Not hatred, not anger, but clarity. He made one decision that became one of the pillars of his future. I will never again let someone else's belief outrank my own. The internal calculus of power. Self-trust is not blind optimism. It is strategic. It is mathematical. It is the calculus that all powerful people perform. What do I want? What resources do I already have? What skills can I learn? What risks can I tolerate? What is the cost of not acting? Most people ask only the first question. The powerful ask all five. Kevin learned to run this calculation every time he faced a new decision, whether to launch a business, invest in mentorship, host an event, or present an idea to the world. And each time the answer revealed itself. Self-trust is always cheaper than self-doubt. Doubt costs time. Doubt costs momentum. Doubt costs opportunity. Doubt costs entire futures. Self-trust, on the other hand, costs discomfort. But discomfort is the tuition of mastery. The paradox. You become trustworthy only after you trust yourself. Most people wait for evidence before they believe in themselves, but history works in reverse. The Wright brothers were not trusted as aviation experts until after they flew. Jobs was not trusted as a visionary until after he disrupted industries. Oprah was not trusted as a media force until she built an empire. Kevin was not trusted as an authority until he created undeniable wealth and influence. If they had waited for permission, they would have waited forever. Here's the paradox of all achievement. Self-trust is the prerequisite for external trust. The world believes you after you act, not before. This is why Kevin says, move first. Evidence comes later. Life rewards initiative, not hesitation. The enemies within: fear, delay, and false humility. There are 3 internal forces that destroy self-trust long before the world ever gets the chance. 1. Fear of being wrong. People would rather be correct in their misery than wrong in their pursuit of greatness. Fear of failure becomes a cage disguised as caution. 2. Delay masquerading as preparation. Most people aren't preparing. They're procrastinating with style. Kevin calls this intellectual hiding, thinking as a way to avoid acting. 3. False humility. The belief that wanting more is too much. A psychological device designed to avoid responsibility. False humility is cowardice wearing a polite mask. All 3 forces lead to the same outcome: a life half lived. To break free, you must start seeing indecision for what it truly is: a decision to remain powerless. The Kevin Clarke case study, the lunch test. One of Kevin's most formative lessons came from a mentor who tested him without warning. Kevin had just hosted an event. He made $350. Luke, the speaker he brought in, made $3,500. He didn't shrink. He didn't sulk. He didn't envy. He asked how. Luke saw the hunger. He saw the potential. So he invited Kevin to lunch. When the check came, Kevin insisted on paying. Luke resisted. Kevin insisted harder. Years later, Luke explained, "If you had let me buy that lunch, I would have known you were a taker, not a giver. I would have cut ties immediately." Kevin passed the test not because he knew he was being tested, but because his identity dictated his actions. This is what self-trust produces: an instinct for decisions that align with greatness. The 4 pillars of unbreakable self-trust. To cultivate the same internal foundation, you must build these pillars deliberately. 1. Decide quickly. Indecision kills speed. Speed kills doubt. Move with intention, adjust later. 2. Learn publicly. You will make mistakes. Make them in motion. Mastery requires exposure. 3. Keep promises to yourself. Every broken promise fractures identity. Every kept promise forges power. 4. Back yourself financially. If you will not invest in you, why should anyone else? Kevin invested before he was ready. That is why he became ready. The final shift. The world responds to conviction, not credentials. They trust the individual who moves with certainty, even if they do not yet understand the plan. Kevin's life became proof of this.
Each bold decision strengthened his identity. Each act of self-trust attracted new allies, mentors, clients, and opportunities. The world eventually saw what Kevin always believed. He was not waiting for greatness. He was walking toward it. And when you do this, when you move with internal certainty, the world rearranges itself to accommodate your rise.
Chapter 12. The Law of Perception Mastery. Control the lens, control the power. Human beings do not respond to reality, they respond to perception. Our decisions, our fears, our ambitions, and our loyalties are triggered not by the world as it is, but by the world as we believe it to be. Whoever controls that belief controls the outcome. This is why perception mastery is not a luxury. It is not a soft skill. It is not marketing. It is a form of power, as ancient as warfare and as modern as digital influence. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned early that perception can elevate or destroy a person long before their true nature is revealed. The world meets you through the image you present, the narrative you broadcast, and the energy you embody. You can be brilliant, gifted, and destined for greatness. But if people perceive you as uncertain or unprepared, you will be treated accordingly. The powerful understand this. The average ignore it. The weak resent it. But only the wise learn to shape it. The Great Divide: Reality versus Interpretation. Two people can observe the same event and walk away with two entirely different stories. One sees opportunity, the other sees danger. One sees potential, the other sees risk. One moves forward, the other retreats. What changed? Not the event, the interpretation. And this difference in interpretation is what separates those who ascend from those who remain stagnant. Kevin understood this during his early years in entrepreneurship. While most people saw their financial struggles as a sign to shrink, he saw them as training. Where others saw limitations, he saw leverage. Where others complained, he strategized. His perception wasn't naive, it was empowered. He refused to look at life through the lens of survival. He committed to looking at everything through the lens of possibility. This shift is not motivational. It is mechanical. Perception drives behavior, and behavior determines destiny. The ambassador effect: you become what you broadcast. People treat you according to the signals you emit. Your energy writes the script before your words begin. If you walk into a room unsure of your value, you teach others to undervalue you. If you present yourself as hesitant, you invite doubt. If you appear apologetic for your own ambition, the world gladly reduces your influence. Perception is not deception. It is framing. It is the conscious shaping of how you and your message are received. The powerful craft their frame. The powerless inherit someone else's. The art of shaping your narrative. Your narrative is the story the world tells about you, but most people never write their own. They let the environment, their job, their family, or society define it. This is the beginning of invisibility. Kevin realized that if he did not define himself, the world would define him by default, and it would define him small. So he began crafting his own narrative. A leader, a visionary, a strategist, a creator of opportunity, someone whose words and actions carried weight. He wasn't lying, he was amplifying the truth of his potential. He was setting the stage for the future he was building. This is the first rule of perception mastery. Tell the world who you are before it decides for you. The danger of a weak frame. Every conflict, conversation, or negotiation involves two frames. The dominant frame, which sets the tone, the submissive frame, which reacts to it. If you do not enter with a frame, you adopt the other person's, and that is the beginning of psychological defeat. Consider the person who enters a room seeking permission instead of offering presence. They place themselves in a submissive frame. They shrink their own authority. They negotiate from weakness. Doors that should have opened remained closed, not because they lacked value, but because they lacked the perceived authority to claim it. Kevin experienced this early when pitching ideas and collaborations. The moment he entered as a salesperson, he was dismissed. The moment he entered as a peer, he was respected. Same person, same message, different frame, different outcome. Power comes not from what you say, but how you frame it. The reframe, turning disadvantage into advantage. One of Kevin's gifts is the ability to reframe situations instantly. A setback becomes a signal. A loss becomes leverage. A delay becomes preparation. A closed door redirects him to a better opening. He refuses to let circumstances dictate perception. He dictates perception and shapes circumstances. For example, when hosting small events early in his speaking career, he rephrased small attendance into intimacy and connection. While others would have apologized for the low turnout, Kevin used it to create personal impact, an advantage speakers with larger audiences couldn't replicate. That reframe transformed the perception of the event, the audience, and himself. Soon, those small rooms led to bigger rooms. Those intimate events led to bigger stages. Those early perceptions shaped a global brand. The 3 dimensions of perception power. To master perception, you must master these 3 dimensions. 1. How you perceive yourself. This is the foundation. Nothing else matters if your internal lens is distorted. Self-perception shapes confidence, action, decision-making, persistence, influence. You must become the architect of your identity, not its prisoner. 2. How others perceive you. This influences opportunities, partnerships, respect, authority, momentum, control. Control how you enter a room, how you communicate, how you position yourself, and how you present your value. 3. How you perceive the world. This determines motivation, possibility, resourcefulness, fearlessness, strategy. A world perceived as hostile creates passivity. A world perceived as abundant creates expansion. Kevin chose the latter and built an empire because of it. The tactics of perception mastery. Here are Kevin's practical methods for mastering perception. Name your identity intentionally. Call yourself what you aspire to embody. Move as if your vision is already real. Your body language should reflect your future, not your past. Speak in the language of leadership. Replace certainty killers like "I hope" or "I think" with "I've decided" and "here's what's next." Assume the frame. Do not wait for permission. Define the tone and direction from the start. Let your results reinforce your presence.
Execution is the most powerful perception tool on earth. The final truth. Perception creates position. In every era, from pharaohs to presidents, from generals to CEOs, the individuals who influenced perception shaped history. Kevin stands in this lineage, not because he sought attention, but because he understood the deeper law. Power belongs to those who control the lens through which the world sees. Master perception, and you no longer chase opportunity. Opportunity seeks you.
Chapter 13. The Law of Inner Wealth. Prosperity begins in the mind before it appears in the world. Most people chase wealth as if it were an object outside themselves, something buried in a distant location waiting to be discovered. They search for opportunities, jobs, investments, secrets, shortcuts. They chase money the way children chase shadows, always reaching, never grasping. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned early that true wealth doesn't begin with money. Money is the effect. Mindset is the cause. You cannot build a prosperous life with a bankrupt spirit. You cannot create abundance from a foundation of fear. You cannot receive greatness while believing yourself unworthy of it. Inner wealth precedes outer wealth. It is the internal state that shapes the external reality. This is why two people can receive the same opportunity and produce wildly different outcomes. One expands it, the other squanders it. One sees possibility, the other sees risk. One becomes wealthy, the other stays trapped. The difference is not resources, it is not education, it is not privilege, it is not luck. The difference is inner wealth, the mental, emotional, and spiritual fullness that makes prosperity the natural consequence. The invisible fortune, what you carry within. Kevin grew up in an environment where money was scarce, but belief was abundant. His family didn't have wealth, but they carried faith. Faith in potential, faith in discipline, faith in the promises of God. That faith became the seed of everything he built. Over time, he learned a profound truth. External wealth evaporates without internal stability. Those who lack identity lose themselves in success. Those who lack discipline lose the fruits of their labor. Those who lack wisdom are destroyed by their own decisions. Those who lack humility sabotage their relationships. Those who lack vision settle for crumbs instead of kingdoms. But those who cultivate inner wealth, clarity, gratitude, resilience, self-respect, and spiritual grounding become unshakable. Money can come and go. Markets can rise and fall. Opportunities can expand or collapse. But inner wealth is permanent and it multiplies everything it touches. The paradox of riches. Why the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. This is not a conspiracy. It is not injustice. It is not fate. It is a simple truth. People replicate externally what they believe internally. When someone with a poverty mindset receives money, they spend it, avoid responsibility, or fearfully hoard it until it slips away. When someone with abundance thinking receives money, they grow it, invest it, and put it to work. When someone with a defeated mindset meets opportunity, they hesitate. When someone with an empowered mindset meets opportunity, they strike. When someone with inner scarcity faces adversity, they crumble. When someone with inner wealth faces adversity, they adapt and ascend. This is why inner wealth is the great separator of destinies. Not skill, not intelligence, not connections, not timing. Mindset. Kevin's turning point, when self-worth became non-negotiable.
There was a season where Kevin had the talent and the drive, but not the inner belief. He could build, but he couldn't sustain. He could earn money, but he couldn't grow it. He could create opportunities, but he didn't trust himself enough to seize them. The turning point came when he realized you cannot outperform your self-worth. You will sabotage every blessing you don't feel worthy of. You will shrink from every room you don't feel entitled to stand in. You will reject every opportunity that does not match your internal identity. Kevin began to build not just businesses, but himself. He strengthened his self-respect, his emotional discipline, his spiritual alignment, his personal standards, his ability to say no, his capacity to say yes, his willingness to walk alone, his comfort with responsibility. Once his inner wealth expanded, his outer wealth followed effortlessly. This is the great secret of all high achievers. They grow first, then the world adjusts. The 3 pillars of inner wealth. Kevin teaches that inner wealth is built on 3 core pillars. 1. Identity. Know who you are. Your identity determines your destiny. If you see yourself as average, you will produce average results. If you see yourself as limited, you will live limited outcomes. But if you see yourself as chosen, capable, and destined for greatness, you will move differently. You will speak differently. You will act differently. You will choose differently. Your identity is your inheritance. Protect it at all costs. 2. Belief. Know what's possible. Inner wealth requires the belief that you are capable of change, you are worthy of abundance, you are allowed to succeed, you are equipped to endure. Belief is the engine of behavior. Without it, ambition dies in the parking lot. 3. Standards. Know what you accept. Your standards are the borders of your empire. They determine who you allow into your life, how people treat you, what opportunities you pursue, what environments you tolerate. The poor dream. The wealthy decide. The powerful enforce. Inner wealth demands commitment to standards that elevate your life, not diminish it. The inner-outer loop. How mindset creates material results. When you change your inner world, your outer world begins to rearrange itself to match the new blueprint. Kevin calls this the inner-outer loop. Internal belief, which then influences daily actions, which produce external outcomes, which reinforce internal belief. This cycle can spiral upward into abundance or downward into scarcity. Most people wait for results before they believe, but the powerful believe first and results follow. The practical path. How to build inner wealth. Here are Kevin's concrete tools for building inner wealth. Start and end your day with gratitude. Gratitude expands spiritual capacity. Speak your identity aloud daily. Affirmation is not poetry, it is programming. Build habits that shape the person you want to become. Consistency creates confidence. Remove environments that diminish your worth. Your surroundings sculpt your mindset. Document your wins, no matter how small. Evidence builds belief. Give before you receive. Generosity expands mental wealth. Spend time in stillness, reflection, and clarity. Silence is the birthplace of strength. Inner wealth is not accidental. It is disciplined. The final truth. Who you become is more valuable than what you acquire. Money can be lost. Assets can be taken. Opportunities can expire. But who you become, the strength you build, the clarity you gain, the character you sharpen, these remain. Inner wealth turns adversity into advancement. It turns confusion into direction. It turns fear into focus. It turns survival into expansion. Kevin embodies this truth. When you become wealthy internally, the outside world has no choice but to respond in kind.
Chapter 14. The Law of Relentless Creation. You are the source, not the circumstance. There are two types of people in the world: creators and reactors. Creators shape life. Reactors survive life. Creators build their path. Reactors walk the path handed to them. Creators generate momentum. Reactors wait for permission. Creators use what they have. Reactors wait for what they lack. Creators engineer opportunity. Reactors wait for opportunity to arrive. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned long ago that the most dangerous lie ever told is this: success comes to those who wait. No, it doesn't. Success comes to those who create. Waiting is passive. Creation is aggressive. Waiting keeps you powerless. Creation keeps you in motion. Kevin became who he is because he stopped waiting for doors to open and started building doors where none existed. This chapter is the blueprint for that mindset. The world is not responsible for your becoming. Most people live with an unconscious expectation that life should open up for them, that someone should recognize their value, that opportunities should align perfectly, that support should arrive at the right time, that someone should give them a chance. But Kevin teaches a harsh truth. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is obligated to see your potential. No one is required to open doors for you. No one is responsible for your greatness. This is not tragedy. It is freedom. Because when you realize no one is coming, you stop waiting. And when you stop waiting, you start creating. And when you start creating, you become unstoppable. How Kevin created momentum out of thin air. Kevin didn't start with wealth, connections, prestige, or privilege. He started with a decision. I will not be defined by what I lack. He learned early that if you don't have a platform, build one. If you don't have resources, leverage creativity. If you don't have support, move alone. If you don't have validation, validate yourself. If you don't have clarity, start moving and let clarity meet you. The world opens to those who move, not those who wait. Kevin mastered the law of relentless creation by asking himself a single question every day. What can I build with what I have right now? This question shifts you from victim to creator instantly. Reactors die in permission. Creators thrive in execution. Reactors wait for the perfect moment, a sign, approval, resources, confidence, guarantees, certainty. Creators move with imperfect clarity, limited resources, fear in their chest, doubt in their mind, no guarantees, but a commitment to act anyway. Creators understand a simple, life-altering principle. Action is the cause, confidence is the effect, not the other way around. Those who wait to feel ready never start. Those who start before they are ready grow into readiness. The rule of forward pressure. Kevin teaches that momentum is built by force, not by chance. He calls this forward pressure, the daily unrelenting push that keeps you moving toward your destiny even when you feel resistance.
Forward pressure looks like showing up on days your emotions collapse, pushing through when you're tired, progressing even when you're unsure, making calls you don't feel like making, practicing when no one is watching, building when no one is clapping, learning when no one is guiding you, improving when no one acknowledges you. This is how empires are built. Not with luck, but with relentless forward motion. Creation demands 3 forms of courage. Every creator must cultivate 3 internal powers. 1. The courage to begin without permission. Nothing kills destiny faster than waiting for approval. People who feel threatened by your greatness will never give you permission. People who fear change will never encourage your growth. People who have settled will never support your expansion. Creators take the first step on their own authorization. 2. The courage to continue without applause. There is always a season where no one believes yet. No one sees the vision. No one understands. No one supports. No one recognizes the work. This is the season that breaks most people. But Kevin thrived in this season. He learned to clap for himself until the world caught up. 3. The courage to finish without guarantees. Anyone can start. Few can sustain. Almost none can finish. Why? Because finishing requires you to believe in the unseen. Creation thrives on faith, believing that the work you're doing will eventually yield the fruit you desire, even when there's no evidence yet. The Creator's Toolkit, Kevin's daily practices. Here are the tools Kevin used to build an extraordinary life from ordinary circumstances. 1. Create something every day. A post, a plan, a pitch, a page. Creation compounds. 2. Remove waiting phrases from your vocabulary. I'll try. Maybe later. When I feel ready. When things calm down. When the timing is right. Replace them with one word. Now. 3. Build systems, not wishes. Systems create consistency. Consistency creates inevitability. 4. Take small steps with large intention. Even 1 inch of progress can change your entire trajectory. 5. Choose creation over consumption. Every hour spent consuming is an hour not spent building. 6. Track your output, not just your goals. Creators measure creation, not dreams. The Creator's Advantage. Why relentless wins. People often think the most successful individuals are the smartest or the most gifted. Kevin disagrees. He insists the real winners are those who refuse to stop. Not the most talented, not the most connected, not the most educated. The most relentless. Relentless people outlast obstacles, outlast doubt, outlast critics, outlast fear, outlast excuses. They keep moving long after everyone else has quit. And because they're still moving, they eventually reach the gates no one else had the endurance to touch. The final truth, creation makes you inevitable. When you become a creator, you no longer need luck. You no longer need permission. You no longer need external motivation. You no longer fear obstacles. You no longer wait. Because you realize you are not shaped by the world, you shape the world. This is the essence of the law of relentless creation. When you create daily, you become unstoppable. When you become unstoppable, you become inevitable.
Chapter 15. The Law of Strategic Isolation. Withdraw to advance. Distance sharpens power. Most people fear being alone. They fear silence. They fear stillness. They fear hearing their own thoughts. And because of this fear, they drown themselves in noise. People, opinions, distractions, obligations, conversations, chaos. But every great transformation in human history came from one place: isolation. Every breakthrough, every reinvention, every elevation of consciousness requires a period of withdrawal, a sacred separation from the world so you can confront yourself without distraction. Ambassador Kevin Clarke learned this law early. If you want to rise above the crowd, you must step away from the crowd. Not permanently, not antisocially, but strategically. Isolation is not loneliness. Isolation is concentration. Isolation is where the next version of you is formed. Now, let us go deeper. The world's noise is designed to keep you average. People rarely admit it, but the world is designed to keep you in a state of comparison, distraction, confusion, emotional reaction, stagnation, fear of standing out. Noise destroys clarity. Crowds destroy individuality. Opinions destroy inner authority. Kevin realized that most people live their entire lives reacting to life rather than designing it. Why? Because silence terrifies them. In silence, you must face yourself. In silence, you must confront your habits. In silence, you must acknowledge your patterns. In silence, you must see the truth you've been avoiding. But silence is also where you reclaim your power. Kevin's transformational withdrawal. There was a point in Kevin Clarke's life when everything around him grew chaotic. Too many voices, too many expectations, too many responsibilities, too many hands pulling him in different directions. He realized he was losing himself in the noise of others. So, he withdrew. Not dramatically, strategically. He stepped into isolation for 30 days. No parties, no unnecessary meetings, no idle conversations, no distracting environments. During this period of strategic isolation, he did 4 things. 1. Reviewed his life with brutal honesty. 2. Rebuilt his plans from zero. 3. Reset his spiritual foundation. 4. Realigned his priorities with his purpose. By the end of the 30 days, he emerged sharper, clearer, and more powerful than ever before. Isolation didn't weaken him, it weaponized him. Isolation is the forge of greatness. Every icon in history used isolation. Jesus withdrew to the wilderness before his ministry. Muhammad had revelation during solitary retreat. Maureen Taylor built Mustard Seed TV based on the parable of the mustard seed through Jesus the Christ. Buddha found enlightenment under a tree, alone. Marcus Aurelius wrote meditations during isolated moments in battle camps. Nikola Tesla built entire inventions from silent internal contemplation. Steve Jobs retreated to minimal environments to conceive world-changing ideas. Every breakthrough came from withdrawal. Isolation is the forge where the next version of your mind is crafted. The 3 forms of strategic isolation. Kevin teaches that isolation has 3 levels. Master them and your power multiplies. 1. Physical isolation. This is removing yourself from environments that drain you, people who distract you, noise that smothers you, responsibilities that bury you, temptations that weaken you. This is not escapism.
It is recalibration. A lion does not retreat because it is weak. A lion retreats so it can stalk with intention. 2. Mental isolation. This is detaching your mind from other people's opinions, social comparisons, emotional reactions, short-term impulses, the endless noise of the world. Mental isolation is the ability to hear your own intuition again. It is rediscovering your internal compass. It is sovereignty of thought. 3. Spiritual isolation. This is connecting yourself back to your source, God, consciousness, destiny, higher purpose. In spiritual isolation, clarity becomes revelation. Direction becomes conviction. Confusion dissolves. Fear loses oxygen. Doubt loses shape. This is where your mission is renewed. Why you must withdraw before you transform. Every major leap in life requires stepping away from your current environment. Why? Because you cannot become a new version of yourself in the same environment that built your old self. If you want new vision, new discipline, new habits, new opportunities, new creativity, new identity, you must create distance from everything that shaped the old version of you. Isolation is not running away. Isolation is stepping back so you can return with more power. Signs you need strategic isolation. Kevin teaches that when any of the following appear, it's time to withdraw. You feel mentally scattered. You can't hear your own ideas. You're emotionally overwhelmed. You're stuck in repetitive patterns. You're influenced more than intentional. You're losing passion for your mission. You've grown reactive instead of creative. You're surrounded by draining people. You're living on autopilot. When these symptoms arise, isolation becomes medicine. The isolation protocol, Kevin's 7-day reset. Here is the exact process Kevin teaches. Day 1, clear your environment. Clean, declutter, remove noise. A chaotic space creates a chaotic mind. Day 2, digital fasting. Turn off social media, silence notifications, reclaim mental bandwidth. Day 3, vision reconstruction. Write down who you are, what you want, what you must remove, what you must build. Day 4, spiritual reconnection. Pray, meditate, reflect, reconnect with purpose. Day 5, identity realignment. Define the future you. Study their habits. Study their routines. Adopt them immediately. Day 6, plan engineering. Build systems. Build routines. Build priorities. Build structure. Day 7, re-entry with intention. Return to the world sharper, calmer, clearer, more powerful. A lion after retreat does not walk. It hunts. The power you gain from strategic isolation. After every period of withdrawal, you gain 3 priceless strengths. 1, clarity. You see your path without distortion. 2, authority. You stop being influenced and start influencing. 3, power. You operate with conviction instead of confusion. The law in one sentence. Withdraw to rebuild. Rebuild to return. Return to dominate.
Chapter 16. The Law of Energetic Dominance. Your energy arrives before you do. Before a word leaves your mouth, before your presence is formally acknowledged, before anyone knows your name, they feel you. Human beings are not logical first. We are intuitive first, instinctual first, energetic first. Walk into any room and something happens instantly. People scan you, not physically, energetically. They feel whether you are confident or insecure, grounded or scattered, intentional or aimless, powerful or passive, predator or prey. This is not mystical. It is biological. It is primal. It is ancient. Ambassador Kevin Clarke teaches this truth everywhere he goes. Your energy is your first form of communication and your strongest form of influence. Once you understand this, you stop focusing merely on what you say and begin mastering what you radiate. Let us go deeper. The invisible force that determines your success. You can have the intelligence, the talent, the strategy, the opportunity, the ambition, but if your energy is weak, uncertain, or chaotic, you will sabotage yourself long before the world ever does. Energetic dominance doesn't mean being loud, aggressive, or intimidating. Those are signs of insecurity. True energetic dominance is calm, centered power. The type of presence that silently communicates, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm capable of. People trust you more, respect you more, follow you more, listen to you more, invest in you more. Not because you said something impressive, but because your energy made it safe to believe in you. Kevin's first encounter with real energetic dominance. Years ago, Kevin walked into a conference hall where one of the world's top speakers was preparing backstage. This man said nothing. He didn't greet anyone. He didn't appear to be doing anything special. But his energy filled the room like oxygen. Everyone who passed him straightened their posture. People lowered their voices. The environment shifted around him as if the atmosphere respected him. Kevin later said, he had the energy of a man who didn't need the world, but the world needed him. That day, Kevin realized something powerful. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. The strongest person in the room is the ones whose presence alters the room. That is energetic dominance. What determines your energy? The 4 pillars of presence. Kevin teaches that your energy is not random. It is the result of 4 internal forces operating together. 1. Internal peace, emotional stability. Chaotic emotions produce chaotic energy. Fear leaks, insecurity leaks, jealousy leaks, self-doubt leaks. People feel it before you ever speak. When your emotions are regulated, your energy becomes grounded. People perceive you as powerful without you trying. 2. Self-trust, inner authority. If you don't trust your own decisions, no one else will. Energy exposes self-doubt instantly. Self-trust creates certainty, conviction, authority, natural influence. Your energy says, this person knows what they are doing. 3. Alignment. Value plus purpose plus action. When your life matches your values, your energy becomes clean and strong. When your actions align with your mission,
your energy becomes magnetic. People can sense integrity, even if they can't explain it. Alignment creates a frequency that others instinctively respond to. 4. Direction. Clarity of vision. Energetic weakness often comes from confusion. When you lack a clear direction, your energy is diffused. But when you know exactly who you are, where you're going, what you're building, your energy becomes sharp and focused. Focused energy is felt as power. The 3 types of energy that determine your future. There are 3 energetic archetypes in every room. Only one leads to dominance. Type 1, the drainer. Weak energy. These individuals complain often, blame everything, need constant reassurance, take more than they give, bring negative emotion wherever they go. Their energy drains people. Opportunities avoid them. Success slips through their fingers. Most people live here. Type 2, the neutral, passive energy. These individuals don't bother anyone, don't inspire anyone, don't offend, don't impress, don't lead, don't follow. They simply exist. They don't drain energy, but they don't generate energy either. They are invisible in the marketplace. Type 3, the charger, dominant energy. These individuals elevate every room they enter, stabilize chaos, encourage people, command respect, radiate confidence, inspire action, uplift environments. Their energy is valuable. People feel better around them. People believe more around them. People rise around them. Chargers attract wealth, influence, partnerships, loyalty, admiration, opportunities. This is what Kevin teaches. Become a charger. Not by force, but by mastery of self. Kevin's breakthrough in speaking. In Kevin's early speaking days, he had content, he had skill, he had ideas, but he didn't yet have energetic dominance. Then one day, a mentor told him, "Kevin, people don't buy your words. They buy the energy behind your words." That changed everything. He began focusing not just on what he said, but on how he existed while saying it. His breathing, his posture, his tone, his intention, his emotional state, his internal belief. Within months, the transformation was dramatic. His presence expanded. His impact deepened. His influence multiplied. People began telling him, "Kevin, when you walk into the room, everything changes." He had stepped into energetic dominance. The master key. Energy cannot be faked. You can fake confidence with body language. You can fake intelligence with big words. You can fake success with appearance. But energy, never. Energy reveals your truth instantly. You can only radiate what you truly believe about yourself. This is why energetic dominance is rare. It requires internal mastery.
How to cultivate energetic dominance. Kevin's 4-part system. Here is the system Kevin teaches around the world. 1. Protect your energy ruthlessly. Say no more often, withdraw from draining people, remove yourself from negative environments, protect your emotional state like your bank account. Weak boundaries equals weak energy. Strong boundaries equals strong presence. 2. Strengthen your core identity. Your identity determines your energy. You must continually upgrade your standards, your self-image, your habits, your routines, your beliefs. Identity creates frequency. Frequency creates destiny. 3. Heal your internal conflicts. Energetic leaks come from unresolved trauma, old heartbreak, self-judgment, shame, guilt, fear. You cannot dominate your external world while you are battling your internal world. Healing creates presence. 4. Align with your vision daily. You were created for purpose. Energy becomes magnetic when it flows towards something meaningful. Each day, review your goals, visualize your future, take aligned action, recommit to mission. Purpose amplifies energy. Purpose makes you attractive. Purpose makes you unshakable. The final truth of this law. Energetic dominance is not about overpowering others. It is about mastering yourself so thoroughly that the world naturally responds to you. The room shifts, opportunities shift, people shift. Your entire life shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence commands it. The law in one sentence. Master your inner world, and your outer world obeys. Chapter 17. The Law of Magnetic Identity. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. There are two forces operating in every human life: desire and identity. Desire is what you want. Identity is what you believe you are. Most people live their entire lives trying to achieve their desires with an identity that cannot support them. They want wealth, but maintain the identity of someone who doubts, hesitates, spends emotionally, and thinks small. They want opportunity, but carry the identity of someone unprepared, inconsistent, or easily intimidated. They want influence, but hold an identity built on fear of judgment and chronic self-consciousness. Desire is loud. Identity is quiet, but identity always wins. Ambassador Kevin Clarke teaches this relentlessly. Your life can only rise to the level of your self-image. Change your identity, change everything. Let us go deeper. The identity loop that controls your destiny. Every person lives inside a loop made of 3 forces: identity, behaviors, outcomes. And then outcomes reinforce identity. For example, if you see yourself as someone who always struggles with money, you will subconsciously avoid opportunity, mismanage resources, choose low-value environments, fear risk, sabotage progress, procrastinate on growth. Then you will create outcomes that reinforce the belief, and the loop becomes stronger. Most people think they need motivation. They need tactics. They need resources. What they really need is a new identity.
only then does everything else begin to align. Kevin's transformational moment, the identity shift. Kevin once shared a story from a period early in his career when he wasn't making progress, despite all the effort. He was disciplined, he was focused, he was driven, but no matter how hard he tried, he kept hitting a ceiling. Then a mentor asked him one question. Who do you think you are in relation to your goals? Kevin answered honestly, I'm someone trying to become successful. The mentor paused, then shook his head. That's the problem. You're operating from the identity of someone trying, not someone being. That line pierced Kevin's mind like a blade. A person who is trying implies doubt, distance, effort without embodiment, a future version that feels separate from the present. Trying is not being. His mentor continued, the version of you who already has what you want doesn't try. He embodies. This was the moment Kevin's life shifted. He began speaking differently, walking differently, making decisions differently, handling money differently, approaching risk differently, commanding rooms differently. He wasn't pretending. He was aligning. Within a year, everything changed. Income skyrocketed, influence expanded, opportunities multiplied, partnerships flourished, audiences grew. Not because he became a new person, but because he became the person he already was internally. Identity precedes destiny. The 3 levels of identity and their power. Kevin teaches that there are 3 levels of identity and your entire life is built upon the one you operate from. Level 1, the adopted identity. External programming. This is who the world convinced you to be. Your childhood environment, your culture, your past failures, labels from others, traumas, limitations, expectations. This is the identity most people carry their whole lives. It is the weakest version of you. Level 2, the constructed identity. Chosen self. This is who you decide to become through habits, discipline, routines, intentional change, learning, training. This level is powerful, but it requires effort. Many people reach it temporarily, then fall back. Level 3, the integrated identity, the highest true self. This is the identity that aligns with your purpose, your God-given gifts, your highest capacity, your natural genius, your deepest calling. When you reach this level, your actions feel effortless because you're operating as the person you were created to be. This is the identity that becomes magnetic. People follow you without you trying. Opportunities find you. You attract resources, alignment, and momentum because your energy communicates coherence. This is where Kevin lives. This is where he leads others. This is the identity that rewrites destiny. The identity formula. Kevin breaks the process down into 3 simple components. 1, belief. You must believe in your capability, your worth, your purpose, your inevitability. Magnetic identity begins with the belief that your desired future is not separate from you. It is yours. 2. Behavior. Identity is expressed through consistent behavior. How you speak, how you think, how you move, how you solve problems, how you respond to adversity. The world doesn't believe what you say. It believes how you behave. 3. Environment. Environment is identity's mirror. If you want to think bigger, act bolder, move faster, rise higher, you must surround yourself with people whose identity is already where you are going. As Kevin puts it, your environment is the incubator of your becoming. If your environment stays the same, your identity cannot evolve sustainably. The identity checkpoint. Who are you being today? Every morning, Kevin asks himself, what identity must I embody today for the future I'm walking into? This question changes everything. The old identity makes old decisions. The new identity makes new decisions. Only one of them leads to the life you want. Your past identity creates hesitation, fear, small moves, self-doubt, unnecessary struggle. Your future identity creates clarity, boldness, alignment, speed, elevation. You choose, consciously or unconsciously, every single day. The final truth of this law. Your identity is your ultimate magnet. It pulls people, circumstances, and opportunities towards you or pushes them away. If you want a bigger life, you must evolve into the version of yourself who naturally lives that life. Not someday, not when you're ready, not when you feel worthy. Now, in this moment. Because nothing changes around you until something changes within you. The law in one sentence. Your identity is the architect of your destiny. Upgrade it and everything else rises.
Chapter 18. The Law of Completion. Nothing is real until it is finished. Power belongs to the one who closes. In every field, business, diplomacy, leadership, art, there are millions who start and almost none who finish. The world is full of half-written books, half-built dreams, half-developed ideas, half-lived lives. People admire ambition, but they respect completion. And more importantly, completion is the currency of credibility. This is why Ambassador Kevin Clarke is recognized globally as a closer. Not because he talks, but because he finishes what others abandon. His reputation is built not on good ideas, but on completed missions. Completion is rare. Completion is respected. Completion is power. The ones who finish become the ones who lead. Let us break down this law. The world rewards finished work, not good intentions. Most people believe they lack motivation,
but what they truly lack is completion discipline. They start projects on a high of excitement. They continue until difficulty appears. Then they stop, restart something new, and repeat. This is the cycle of the average. Kevin teaches that unfinished work becomes mental clutter, emotional weight, spiritual confusion, energetic leakage, confidence erosion. Every unfinished task, no matter how small, takes a piece of your power. When you complete things, you reclaim that power. When you avoid completion, you scatter it. The successful are not smarter. They are not luckier. They are not more inspired. They simply complete. Why most people never finish? There are 3 enemies of completion that sabotage the majority of people. 1. The fear of imperfection. People delay finishing because they fear judgment. They want the perfect moment, the perfect circumstances, the perfect result. But perfection is the enemy of completion. Life doesn't reward perfect, life rewards finished. Kevin says, done is divine, perfect is imaginary. 2. The addiction to beginning. Starting feels good. It carries hope, excitement, vision, potential. Finishing is harder. It requires discipline, resilience, patience, courage, consistency. Most people chase highs, not results. So they keep starting and starting and starting again. Yet nothing in life transforms without a moment of finishing. 3. The fear of what comes after. Some people avoid completion because they fear success more than failure. When you finish something, there are consequences. Now you must stand behind it. Now you must be seen. Now you can no longer hide behind potential. Now you are accountable. So subconsciously, they stall. Completion forces exposure. Exposure requires strength. Kevin teaches that exposure is not a danger. It is your destiny. Kevin's close quarter lesson, finish under pressure. One of Kevin's defining traits is his ability to complete missions under pressure. Diplomatic negotiations often operate under strict deadlines, shifting political dynamics, and high emotional stakes. Many leaders crumble. Kevin closes. He once described a negotiation where 3 governments were at a standstill for weeks. Tension grew, stakes rose. Everyone grew tired. People wanted to pause, reassess, or come back next week. Kevin refused. He said, breaks kill momentum. When you leave the table, completion leaves with you. He kept all sides engaged. He held focus. He maintained clarity. He pushed through fatigue, distraction, and pressure. By the end, all parties agreed. The mission was accomplished. And afterward, Kevin said words that define this law. Finishing tired is superior to restarting fresh. This is the ethos of a closer. The 3 levels of completion. Kevin breaks completion down into 3 phases. Most people operate in the first. The powerful operate in all 3. Level 1. Completion of tasks, micro completion. These are everyday acts: responding to emails, making a call, paying a bill, finishing a document, completing a workout. Small completions build reliability and integrity. This is where discipline begins. Level 2. Completion of projects, macro completion. Finishing programs, agreements, content, launches, systems, chapters of life. This level shapes your external world. It defines your reputation. People trust you because you finish. Level 3. Completion of identity, internal completion. This is where power lives. It is completing the version of yourself that can carry the life you're stepping into. It is shutting the door on the old self, old habits, old patterns, old fears, old mindsets. It is finishing chapters of your evolution so you can write new ones. Most people cling to fragments of past identity. Kevin teaches full internal closure. When you become new, burn the bridge to who you were. Completion is not just external, it is psychological and spiritual alignment. The completion method, the 5-rule system. Here are Kevin's 5 rules that build unstoppable completion power. Rule 1. Touch it once. If you open something, act on it. Don't stack decisions. Don't create mental clutter. Touch it, handle it, move on. Rule 2. End every day finished. Do not carry today's weight into tomorrow. Closure creates clarity. Clarity creates energy. Rule 3. Do hard things first. Procrastination is death by hesitation. Finishing the hard task builds momentum for the rest of the day. Rule 4. Set public deadlines. Accountability increases completion probability tenfold. Kevin publicly commits to timelines because pressure creates performance. Rule 5. Protect momentum at all costs. Momentum is fragile. It dies easily. You must avoid long breaks, avoid excuses, avoid emotional detours, avoid spirals of overthinking. If you build momentum, protect it like oxygen. Stopping is the enemy. Speed is your ally. The completion paradox. Here is the truth most people never understand. The faster you finish, the more opportunities come, but only after you finish. Completion creates credibility, visibility, opportunity, authority, leverage, influence. The world opens its doors to finishers. Those who don't finish remain invisible. The law in one sentence.
Power is earned through completion. Finish what others abandon, and you will rise above everyone who only talks. Final chapter, the Law of Inevitability. When your becoming is no longer optional, destiny bows in your direction. There comes a moment in every great life when the journey is no longer a matter of chances, conditions, or outside permission. A moment when your identity fully catches up to your future. A moment when the world can no longer deny the gravity of who you have become.
This is the moment of inevitability, the final law, the final threshold, the point beyond fear, beyond validation, beyond comparison, beyond hesitation. The point at which your rise is not a possibility. It is a certainty. The point where the work has been done, the character has been honed, the mindset has been weaponized, and the strength you forged in private becomes undeniable in public. At this level, success is not something you chase. Success is something pulled toward you by the weight of your identity, the consistency of your habits, the clarity of your intention, and the force of your self-belief. This is how legends are born, not through wishful thinking or random luck, but through inevitability. And few embody this more fully than Ambassador Kevin Clarke, the final evolution of power. Throughout this book, we have walked through the laws of action, clarity, discipline, boldness, identity mastery, pressure mastery, strategic influence, and so many others. These laws form the architecture of an unstoppable individual. But the final chapter is not a strategy. It is not a tactic. It is a state of being. When all the laws fuse together inside you, the result is inevitability. Think of it like this. When your identity aligns with your purpose, when your habits align with your ambition, when your decisions align with your future, when your character aligns with your mission, when your confidence aligns with your actions, your rise is no longer in question. It is already written. This is the moment when your presence alone disrupts the room, because you are no longer someone trying to become. You are. You are the work. You are the law. You are the message. You are the proof. This is inevitability. How inevitability is forged. Inevitability is not a gift for the chosen. It is a reward for the disciplined. It emerges from endless self-confrontation. You faced the lies inside you. You confronted your fears. You dismantled old identities. You stood in front of your flaws and did not look away. Most people avoid self-confrontation. You walked straight into the fire of it. Non-negotiable execution. You moved whether you felt like it or not. You acted when you were afraid. You pushed when you were tired. You took risks others avoided. You built momentum day after day until momentum became your natural state. Radical self-honesty. You counted your weaknesses, not your fantasies. You studied your patterns instead of your excuses. You held yourself accountable with a level of precision most reserve only for others. Strategic isolation. You learned to walk alone, not lonely, but focused, unbothered, uncluttered, unapologetically intentional. You detached from noise, from envy, from approval, from inherited expectations. This isolation allowed your genius to expand without audience interference. Identity alignment. You rewired the deepest parts of yourself, not just your habits, not just your goals, but the internal architecture of who you are. Once identity shifts, behavior becomes automatic, and success becomes predictable. When all of these converge, the world feels your inevitability before you speak a single word. The ambassador's moment. Every great leader has a moment where inevitability becomes visible to others. For Ambassador Kevin Clarke, that moment came during a high-level private gathering, one filled with global influencers, decision makers, and individuals whose words move nations. Kevin entered the room quietly, not with arrogance, not with theatrics, but with a presence that recalibrated the atmosphere. Eyebrows lifted, conversations slowed. People adjusted their posture without realizing why. No one announced him. No one needed to. Because true power carries its own introduction. A well-known figure leaned toward a colleague and said, "That man walks like someone who already knows the outcome." He wasn't referring to arrogance. He wasn't referring to ego. He was referring to inevitability. Kevin's journey from private trials to public influence had sculpted a presence that was impossible to ignore. People listen differently when they sense inevitability. They treat you differently. They respect you differently. They follow you differently. Because they can feel instinctively that you are not here to participate. You are here to transform. This is the power of a life aligned from the inside out. Signs that you have reached the stage of inevitability. You will know you've stepped into this law when obstacles feel smaller, decisions become clearer, emotions stabilize, respect increases, timing feels more aligned, opportunities appear more frequently. Your presence has weight. Your vision feels non-negotiable. You no longer question your path. You feel pulled by your future rather than pushed by your past. This level is not about confidence. Confidence can waver. It is not about motivation. Motivation can fade. It is about certainty. A certainty that comes from embodiment. The world bends to the self-assured. The greatest leaders in history were not the smartest or most gifted. They possessed something more powerful: conviction. When conviction becomes internal law, the world adjusts around you. People sense someone who cannot be deterred. They may disagree with you, but they do not underestimate you. They may challenge you, but they do not dismiss you. They may resist you, but they cannot outlast you. Your inevitability becomes their reality. The final transcendence. You become the law. The true end of this journey is not mastery of the 30 laws. The true end is becoming someone who no longer needs them. Because the principles have fused with your instincts. Your character has absorbed the discipline. Your identity has consumed the strategies. You no longer apply the laws. You embody them. This is the highest level of personal evolution. You are your strategy. You are your power. You are your discipline. You are your authority. You are your destiny. You do not chase success. You attract it by existing in alignment with it. This is inevitability. The final message from the ambassador. Kevin Clarke often ends his teachings with a simple truth. You cannot become unstoppable until you stop negotiating with your potential. The world does not reward the hesitant. It rewards the inevitable. Your destiny cannot unfold until you commit to becoming someone who no longer flinches, doubts, or delays. Someone who walks with intention, thinks with precision, speaks with authority, acts with courage, moves with clarity, stands with conviction, leads with foresight, grows with discipline, pursues with boldness, and persists with inevitability. This is the calling. This is the transformation. This is the culmination of your evolution. Not the end, but the emergence. The world has enough spectators. What it lacks are individuals who walk as if the future is already theirs. You are now one of them.
The journey is complete. Your rise is inevitable.
Epilogue: The Call to Higher Ground. Your journey continues beyond these pages. Mastery is never final. Transformation is never complete. Power is not an achievement. It is a lifelong discipline, a continued surrender, and a daily rising into the identity God intended for you before you ever took your first breath. If this book has sharpened your mind, expanded your perspective, or stirred something deep within your spirit, then understand this: you were never meant to walk this path alone. Your life, your calling, your growth, these are not isolated pursuits. They are threads in a much larger kingdom tapestry. And now, you are invited to take the next step. Join the mission of Shalom Global Ministries, where faith meets purpose and purpose becomes power. Ambassador Kevin Clarke's work does not end with the written word. His calling is global, spiritual, and transformational, reaching lives, nations, and generations. If you desire to grow deeper in your walk with God, receive prayer and spiritual support, connect with a movement committed to transformation and kingdom impact, sow into the expansion of God's work through generosity, partner with a ministry that touches lives worldwide, then you are invited to connect directly through shalomglobalministries.com. This is more than a ministry. It is a kingdom assignment, an international mandate to build, uplift, heal, and empower. Your support, your prayers, your generosity, and your presence become part of something eternal. Whether you choose to submit a prayer request, partner financially to support global missions and outreach, connect with the ambassador's teachings and resources, sow a seed to advance the kingdom of God, you become a participant in a divine work much larger than yourself. A final word from Ambassador Kevin Clarke. When God elevates you, it is never for you alone. Your breakthrough becomes someone else's inspiration. Your abundance becomes someone else's provision. Your transformation becomes someone else's roadmap. If this book has strengthened you, if its principles have created momentum in your life, then honor the work by staying connected to its source. Your next season begins with action. Your elevation begins with alignment. Your impact begins with obedience. And your journey continues at shalomglobalministries.com.